Hello chess fans, this is Rick from Chess to Impress, and Magnus Carlsen is the winner of the 2017 World Blitz Championships held in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. Carlsen, by his standards, had a very tough first day, scoring only 7 points out of 11 games, and he was 2 points behind defending champion Sergey Karjakin after the first day. But he went on a rampage on day 2, scoring 9 points out of 10. With a quick draw in the last round. As you can see here, he finished on 16 points out of 21 games, a point and a half before defending champion Sergey Karjakin, who started with 9 out of 11 on day 1, but was only able to score 5.5 more points out of 10 games on day 2. Anand, the proud rapid world champion, continued his great form and got the bronze medal in the Blitz, winning his last round game against Maxime Vachier-Lagrave when Vachier-Lagrave blundered in an equal position. You can see the rest of the top 10 there. Wang Hou from China, Levon Aronian from Armenia in 5th position, another Chinese, Ding Liren, the number 1 from China, in 6th. Tigran Petrosian, what a great name, the same name as the former world champion, in 7th position. Yu Yangyi from China, so 3 Chinese in the top 10. Anton Korobov, a very strong blitz player from Ukraine, and Shakhyar Mamedyarov, one of the candidates for the classical world title, finished in 10th position. Carlsen gave an interview after the event and he said, "I'm extremely happy. The first day was very difficult for me, but the second day went beyond expectation. It's a massive win, especially after not winning the Rapid by losing in the last round. After I beat Karjakin, I knew I had a very good chance to win the event. And let's have a look at that crucial game, which was played in the 15th round, white Magnus Carlsen, black Sergey Karjakin." It's always special when Carlsen meets Karjakin. Of course, it's a replay of the 2016 World Championship match for the classical world title. And of course, also in the Blitz, Karjakin was the defending champion and Carlsen wanted to regain his title, which he last held in 2014. This was a must-win game for Carlsen after his bad performance on day 1. e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, and Karjakin plays the Berlin variation of the Ruy Lopez. d3, bishop c5, bishop takes c6, d6, d takes c6, knight c3, Karjakin castled, bishop e3, bishop back to d6. This is all theory, and here comes bishop g5, and this must have come as a surprise for Karjakin as he started to think and use time here. One of black's standard plans, as explained by Grandmaster Miroshnichenko in the live broadcast, is for this knight to be rerouted from f6 to d7 to c5 to e6. But of course now, because of this pin, this plan is no longer an option for black. In the end, Karjakin played rook e8, h3, c5. Karjakin had already used a minute here, while Carlsen had more time than he began with on his clock. This of course because of the 2-second increment per move. The time control was 3 minutes plus 2-second increment per move. So Carlsen already had a nice advantage on the clock here. Knight d5, and now there's a lot of pressure on this knight. And bishop e7 to break the pin. Carlsen took the bishop. Karjakin took back with the queen. Carlsen castled. h6, kicking the bishop. Bishop back to e3. And knight d7. Knight d2, preparing to play f4. And knight back to b8. And in a live commentary, this move was explained that the knight wants to go to c6 and then to d4. But this knight will also be missed on the king side as a defending piece, as we'll see. f4 as planned from Carlsen. The pawn was taken and Carlsen took back with the rook. And as Grandmaster Miroshnichenko explained, white claims to have the better pawn structure. And if the other rook will come to f1, white gets a serious concentration of forces against black's position. Knight c6. There comes the queen to the king side. b6. And indeed the other rook to f1. Lots of power from white on the king side against black's king. Now the f7 pawn is hanging. So Karjakin could have played bishop e6, but this was expected in the live broadcast. But as Miroshnichenko explained, maybe Karjakin was hoping to play his queen to e5 and try to trade queens that way, and that's not possible with a bishop on e6. So rook f8 was played by Karjakin to keep that queen e5 move as an option. Knight f3 from Carlsen, bringing the last piece into action on the king side. And when we mere mortals try to play this, the pieces start to trip over each other, start to step on each other's toes, but not in the hands of Magnus Carlsen. Another possible idea which was shown in the live broadcast was rook 4 to f3 instead of knight f3, and then bring that rook to g3. But knight f3 was played by Carlsen. Bishop e6 after all, and then rook h4. And now we're threatening to take on h6. Just to show the threat, let's make a very silly move for black. Let's play a6, which doesn't make any sense, but just to show white's threat. The threat is bishop takes h6, and if you take back, then the queen takes, and there is a checkmate threat on h8, so you can play f6 to give the king a square, queen h8 anyway, king f7, queen h5 check, king g8, and then knight g5 wins the move for white. You threaten again queen h8 checkmate, because now this knight is taking the f7 square away, and if you take that knight, queen h8 is checkmate anyway, because now this rook is taking the f7 square away. Just to show you a variation of what white was threatening here after rook h4. Karjakin of course knew what was coming, knew what the threat was, so he played f6. Queen g6 from Carlsen, now threatening to take on h6 again with rook or bishop, because the g-pawn is pinned. Queen f7 was played by Karjakin, and now you can win a pawn with white, and of course Karjakin had seen this with rook takes h6, because that protects the white queen, and after queen takes, rook takes, white has won a pawn. But there is knight b4. The white attack has come to a halt, and because of the queens being off the board, and black will win a pawn back on the queen side, either the a2 pawn or the c2 pawn. So this is actually okay for black after queen f7. So rook takes h6 is not an option, and Carlsen immediately retreated his queen to g3, keeping the attack going. Knight b4 was played by Karjakin with only 7 seconds on the clock, while Carlsen almost had 2 full minutes left. Playing king h7 instead was not an option because of the very nice move knight g5 check, which actually wins the queen. Of course it forks king and queen, this pawn is pinned, and this pawn is pinned as well because of the rook attacking f7. Funny move, knight g5 check. But knight b4 was played as said, and Carlsen now took on h6. Knight takes c2, black is looking for a counterplay on the queen side, and Carlsen played the very nice move, the best move in the position, found in a blitz game in a very complicated position. Knight e5, beautiful move. Here Karjakin decided to sacrifice his queen. He could have, of course the knight is attacking the queen now, he could have played queen e7, but let's again look at the variation, why this is very good for white. Knight g6 is a strong move, and attacking the queen again. If you play queen f7, there is bishop f4, it's a very strong move, and now you're threatening rook h8 checkmate. So you can play queen d7 to create again a square for the king on f7, but rook h8 check comes anyway, king f7, and then knight e5 check is a beautiful move. It's a fork on king and queen, so if you take the knight, there is bishop takes e5 check, the check now comes from this rook, king e7, queen g5 check, I mean, you can see from all these white pieces all over black's king that black is not going to survive this. Let's just follow this variation. Rook f6, queen takes g7 check, rook interposes, rook takes, bishop takes, and queen f6 is checkmate. Again, just to show you a variation, one of the possible variations that can happen, and to show how strong white's attack is. After knight e5, Karjakin felt that something like this was hanging over him, so he decided to sacrifice his queen. F takes e5, he took the knight, rook takes queen, and rook takes back, so he got rook and knight for the queen. And sometimes these positions are not easy to win, as the way Grandmaster Miroshnichenko phrased it, technically black has more pieces. Carlsen played queen g6, hitting the bishop. Bishop took a pawn, and as Miroshnichenko said, you have to be brave, otherwise you have no chance. You have to play bravely with black being material down. Carlsen played it really well. He played bishop g5. And again, let's look at the threat. What is the threat here? Let's make that silly move for black again, a6. The threat here is queen h7 check, king f8, and queen h8 is checkmate. That's why Carlsen played his bishop to g5, to take the e7 square away from black's king. So after bishop g5, that was what's hanging over the black position. And Karjakin played rook f8, again, to give the king a way out. Rook h7 was played. We have a forced mate already. And of course now the simple threat is queen takes g7 checkmate. So the rook went back to f7. And then Miroshnichenko said queen h5 is the best way to win this. And it is a forced mate indeed. But Carlsen found an even quicker win with bishop f6. Now 3 pieces are attacking the g7 square, and that is too much for black to handle. Karjakin resigned here, and let's see what could have happened. If you play rook d8, finally bringing that rook into play, then rook takes g7 check will lead to checkmate on the next move. If the king goes to f8, there is rook g8 checkmate. If you take the rook, then queen takes g7 is checkmate. And if you play the king to h8, then there is several checkmate moves. Queen h7 checkmate is one of them. Crushing win from Carlsen over his main rival. In 29 moves he destroyed black's position. And as he said in his interview afterwards, after beating Karjakin, he felt he could win the event. And he did, with a 1.5 point lead over numbers 2 and 3, Sergey Karjakin and Vishwanathan Anand. The 3 medal winners on the podium. Magnus Carlsen, Blitz world champion. Sergey Karjakin, he doesn't look too happy losing his title against Carlsen, but still finishing in 2nd place. And Anand looks a bit happier. Of course, he won the rapid world title and a bronze medal in the Blitz. He had a great event. All this was played from the 26th to the 30th of December 2017. And the organizers announced that next year Saudi Arabia will be the host again for the Rapid and Blitz World Championships, and then hopefully with all nations involved, because this year the players from Israel and Iran could not participate. Hope you enjoyed this video and the coverage on Chess to Impress of the 2017 Rapid and Blitz World Championships. You can see the video on day 1 of the Blitz here in the screen. And if you like this video, it would be great if you could give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the Chess to Impress channel, leave a comment, and you also may want to check out my Chess to Progress channel. The link is in the description box. This is Rick for Chess to Impress. Thank you for watching.